Hi everybody, I'm Pouyan Darian. I'm the immigration lawyer, and today I'm going to discuss what documents to bring to your green card interview. This is something that I discuss on a daily or at least weekly basis with my clients. So you've applied for a green card through your US citizen spouse or qualifying family member. You've gone through the whole process. You have your work permit. You're just waiting for the interview so you can get your green card. At the end of the process, you're going to get an interview appointment notice that looks something like this. It's usually 2 pages. The bottom left of the interview notice says, please come to USCIS office, and it has the location of your local USCIS office. If you saw the video that I recently did on USCIS processing times, you'll see the USCIS local office that's going to review your application and conduct your interview. This notice also says the date and exact time. It has some basic instructions like don't show up more than 15 minutes late. If you're sick or have any COVID symptoms, you could call and reschedule for free. There's some additional COVID safety precautions included on these notices. There's info on obtaining services if you have a disability or if you're deaf or if you need an interpreter, what you should do. Because you should conduct this interview in your best language, because if you make a mistake, that could be used against you if it's a misrepresentation, and your interview will be recorded. At least the audio will be recorded. So that's just something to keep in mind. With these interview notices, there's a list of documents for you to bring, but these don't apply to everybody. What I want to do today is go through the 4 basic categories of documents that you should bring with you to your green card interview. So I'm just going to assume that you're applying for your green card, you're married to a US citizen, and it's your first marriage. These documents are very general. This is not legal advice. Every marriage is different. For example, one of the documents that you must bring, one of your original documents, the first category I'm going to talk about is original documents, is your marriage certificate. But if you've previously been divorced once or more times, you need to bring your divorce certificates as well, in addition to your marriage certificate. Other original documents are proof of U.S. citizenship for the U.S. citizen petitioner. That could be a certificate of naturalization, that could be a U.S. birth certificate, evidence that a U.S. citizen was born abroad. It's a registration form with the consulate. All of these things are evidence of U.S. citizenship. You also have to bring the birth certificate of the immigrant applicant. That's the person who's applying for the green card. They have to bring their original birth certificate. And aside from that, just passports and identity documents. Those are the main original documents that you have to bring. And your interview notice will say, for every original, bring a photocopy. Otherwise, we, USCIS, may retain the original. So if you don't want to lose your original birth certificate, you should just bring a photocopy. It's that simple. You will have previously submitted photocopies of all this stuff to USCIS. Otherwise, you likely wouldn't be getting to the point at which an interview will be scheduled. So they've already seen copies of all this stuff. They just want to authenticate, feel the original, make sure it looks real. And they might not even ask you for all this stuff at the interview, but it's your job to bring it or you can get denied. The next category of documents that you have to bring are the sponsor's updated tax returns. So your US citizen spouse has to bring their updated taxes, and presumably you'll have filed it jointly with them for the most recent tax year. So you just bring those updated taxes and you're good. The joint sponsor also has to bring taxes. So let's say your US citizen spouse didn't earn enough income or didn't have enough evidence of a high enough income to sponsor an immigrant spouse, and you used a joint sponsor. Bring their updated taxes as well to your interview. The third thing that you need to bring is a medical examination form. I-693 is the name of the form. If you have already submitted your completed medical exam when you first applied for your green card, so you sent all the immigration forms along with a sealed medical exam form, and it's been less than 2 years, so the medical exam hasn't expired yet, it has a 2-year expiration date, then you're probably good. But if you haven't submitted a medical examination yet, or if you submitted it more than 2 years ago and your green card interview still hasn't happened, you need to bring a completed medical examination form with you to the interview. That's really important. The medical exam must be sealed. You can't open it. The USCIS officer at the interview must verify that it's sealed, and they just check it off their list and move on with the interview. The final category of evidence is relationship evidence, evidence that you and your U.S. citizen spouse are in a good faith marriage. Now, this interview appointment notice specifically says, bring supporting evidence of your relationship, such as copies of any documentation regarding joint assets or liabilities you and your spouse may have together. This may include tax returns, bank statements, insurance documents, car, life and health insurance, property documents such as car and house ownership, rental agreements, utility bills, credit cards, contracts, leases, photographs, correspondence, and other documents you feel may substantiate your relationship. This is a suggestive list. You may not have the vast majority of these documents. You may not have a vehicle or a house with your spouse in both of your names. But you should have some stuff. I mean, the easy one that most people bring are photographs. If you do that, focus on photographs of you guys in group settings. I know it's hard with COVID, but you don't want to just stick to photographs of you guys on a couch taking selfies. That's not really persuasive. That doesn't show me that you're in a legitimate marriage right now. You want to show other people in the photographs. You want to show you and your spouse doing things that you can talk about if you're asked about it at the interview. I like to create a timeline with the photographs. But photographs without more, it's not ideal. You want to have some documentary evidence. If you have joint credit cards or leases or bank accounts, anything that has both your names on it, anything that suggests you're living together, anything that makes it more likely that you and your spouse are in a real relationship is relevant. And you should talk to your lawyer about creating a super detailed list of documents to bring with you to your interview. One thing that I generally advise people is, so long as you're in a good faith, real marriage with your spouse, the evidence will come. You just have to keep an eye out for it and collect it and document your relationship. I wouldn't go out and open bank accounts or open joint credit cards just for the sake of opening these accounts to manufacture evidence for your interview. That's not persuasive. An immigration officer will see that your bank account doesn't have real transaction history. They'll see that you just opened your credit card right before the interview. It's not persuasive. You don't have to join your finances. I mean, that's a piece of evidence that USCIS considers, commingling of financial assets. But that's only one piece of evidence that could show that you and your spouse are in a real marriage. Every marriage is different. Not all spouses commingle their finances. I know it's a source of stress for many couples, and especially with younger couples nowadays, people choose to keep their finances separate just to relieve stress on their relationship. Whatever you and your spouse do, try to document it. Sometimes I even tell people, okay, so you guys video chat with your spouse during COVID, and with your spouse's parents or family during COVID. Take a screenshot of that. It's something you could talk about at your interview. You guys are having trouble having a child, you've been seeing a fertility specialist or a medical doctor. Get records that you're trying to start a family. This isn't on the interview appointment list as suggested evidence to bring. But if I was an immigration officer and I see that you guys have medical appointments or you're doing fertility treatment, just for example, I would be far more persuaded by that than a lease agreement with both of your names on it. That's just my opinion, and that's the way I've seen it play out during the immigration interviews. One of my jobs as the immigration attorney is to try to create a creative evidence list that shows the lives of the spouses in a unique lens. If I only asked my clients to submit the documents that are on the interview appointment list, the cases would look similar to every other case that the USCIS officers are interviewing and seeing. And that wouldn't result in the easiest interview possible for my clients. So I try to create a customized list with my clients. And I do this when we first prepare the applications to mail them off to USCIS. And then a year or more later, when it's time for the interview, that's when we create a very tailored list, because now they have to bring everything we previously submitted and additional evidence to their interview. So in my opinion, interview prep and creating this finalized custom list of documents is one of the most important things you can do. Because the main purpose of this interview, aside from determining general eligibility for a green card, like you entered the US legally and all that stuff, is to prove that you're in a good faith marriage. So creating this customized list is something that, you really want to talk this over with your lawyer. If you did this process by yourself, it might be a good idea for you to at least consult with a lawyer about the interview. Say, hey, we have an interview on this day. Can you help us create a list of documents to bring with us to the interview? And I do that all the time with people. I think it's really valuable, and I truly do believe that it changes the outcome of their interviews and makes the interview much smoother, both for my clients and for the officer. The officer feels more comfortable signing off on the case. Okay, I think this is a legitimate marriage. They brought all this evidence. Everything looks good to me. And the clients are on their way. So if you found this content to be useful, I would really appreciate it if you liked my video, shared it, and gave me a thumbs up. This is Pouyan Darian. Thanks for watching.